Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 266. Now, if you're listening on the day of release, it is the 3rd of October. So we are now getting into the kind of autumn. It's certainly a bit colder now and a bit more rainy and a bit more windy and things here in England. But for our guest today, who is also in England, the temperatures we have in this country are nothing to him, as he is a hearty and a hardy Icelander. So he's used to much colder weather than we have here. I'll just touch base with Mr. Peter Lant and see how he's doing in Bath in Somerset. How are you doing, Pete?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm doing very well. It's funny because I was talking to this guy's son, Erik, at the weekend, and I said I've been to Iceland once in 2006, and it was in April, and I was like, I'll be fine, and it was freezing. I walked out of the hotel. There's that big cathedral, isn't there, in Reykjavik? I walked out of the hotel and turned straight back and walked straight back in and put gloves on and a hat and everything. And that was when, obviously being from Newcastle, everyone wears t-shirts and stuff. On that day, the icy cold wind was ridiculous. April 2006, it was icy cold wind. We were freezing, like proper frost, you feel it in your fingers and everything. This guy walks through town in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt with his hands in his pockets like this. And it was like,
but when I was there just before December, it was frostbite weather. It was minus 15. It was horrible. Well, not horrible, but just very, very cold.
It was.
No, cold. I don't mean horrible. You had to be if you weren't prepared, and I was prepared for it, and it was still freezing cold.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've had a great weekend just gone. We've been at the Brunel University Indoor Sports Arena for Britain's Disabled Strongest Man and Strongest Woman. And we've had a great weekend, and we've spent the weekend with this gentleman for the second year in a row, because we spent the weekend with him last year as well. And he's very kindly agreed to come onto the podcast. He is the founder of, I'm going to try and pronounce this correctly, Valgeir Strength Trips, which we're going to talk about today, where he takes people out to Iceland and tours all the historic sites and does sort of stone lifting and trains in some of the famous gyms over there and that sort of thing. And he's also 2 times World's Strongest Man competitor back in 2002 and 2003. He is a man mountain, but he is a real gentle giant. He's a lovely man, and we love spending time with him. So welcome to the podcast, Jón Valgeir Williams. How are you doing, John?
Very well, thank you. Good to be here.
Good. Now,
well done, James, by the way.
For the pronunciation.
Yeah.
Now, John, do you want to it's like I've just teed up there a bit. I know you run the strength trips. You're also a personal trainer and a sort of a strength coach, and you train people. You're a former World's Strongest Man competitor. I know now you train your son, Erik, who's 18 as well. And obviously you train yourself still. But do you want to maybe tee up a little bit about, because I know you're based in London. You live in London with your wife and your son. And I think you said your wife is from Czech Republic, was it?
Yeah, well, very well remembered, sir.
Very well remembered, yeah. So your wife is from Czech Republic and you're based in London, but obviously you spent most of your life living in Iceland, and you moved over here. Just tell us kind of because you're the second Icelander, I think, that we've had on the podcast. The first one being Magnus Ver Magnusson, who we spoke to before, who's a friend of yours.
Well, he was my training partner. I didn't know if you knew this. Me and Magnus, we trained together for quite a while. And Magnus will tell you himself, I was the only training partner that lasted his his sessions and all that stuff. People came and people went, but I stuck around like bad smell. And I didn't mind doing the work. And Magnus showed me the work very well, and he did some amazing workouts. And he got me to World's Strongest Man, I must say.
Yeah. So how much older is Magnus? Because I think Magnus is like getting on for. Well, he's in his 60s. I know, Magnus. I don't know how. Is it mid 60s now? Maybe, I don't know. But
he's around 60 now.
Yeah.
I think it's like 8 years between us, if I'm correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was kind of like almost like a big brother, like a mentor to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I approached Magnus after my first strongman competition, and he actually heard about that some new guy came in and tried it, and that was my first competition. I had no clue what I was doing, but I enjoyed the heck out of it, and then of course popped the question to Magnus because he was always training in the same gym, and you know, having a mentor is everything. Always surround yourself with people who are on the same path, and you will get stronger, and especially people who are stronger than you. So it was a golden opportunity to get to train with Magnus, and yeah, it was an experience and a half.
Mm. And how many years did you spend training with Magnus?
So we started 99, the end of 99 approximately. No, I lie. It was in 2000. So I met him the year 2000, and it was in the beginning, and there was the first competition. So I met him, yeah, sort of the beginning of the year 2000, and we started training full on, and we trained together for, well, we were at least 4 or 5 years training together, at least.
And where were you training at that stage? Because did he have the Jacobol gym then, or was
No,
this before that? Yeah.
we trained in John Paul Sigmundsson's old gym, Gym 80.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that
Yeah.
was truly legendary.
And did you ever meet Jón Paul Sigmarsson, or
I did.
you did? Oh wow.
Nothing. Yeah, nothing around Strongman though. But he was hosting this event outside a restaurant called the American Style, and I do remember that restaurant because back in the day they used to be fantastic burgers, right? And sadly, they're not like that today. They're quite the opposite. But anyway, so he was hosting this event, and they were opening this new restaurant, and there was these bricks that you were supposed to hold together. And when I saw Jón Paul there, of course, I got very excited, and I think I was 12 years old, and I went to lift bricks with all the, all the adults that were there, and I think I was like, I got up to one brick per age, so I held 12 bricks at the same time. And my mother always claims to say that Jón Paul got very impressed. So that's my only experience with Jón Paul Sigmarsson. But yeah, sadly.
Yeah. Wow. But this is interesting because a couple of weeks ago we had a guy on called Steve Gardner, and he's about 60 now as well.
No,
And
he's
he was
60,
a strong.
he's 69. He's 69. He's nearly 70.
Oh, sorry, he's nearly 70. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, he's like 69 now. Yeah, but he used to do strongman and truck pulling and things. And for the podcast, the image we used was him with Jón Paul Sigmarsson, and they were at the World Truck Pull Championships, and he actually beat Jón Paul Sigmarsson at that event on that day. And he said that's the thing that he's always, his claim to fame, if you like. But Jón Paul, yeah, was a hell of a character, wasn't he?
And then there's the other connection with Magnus, and Magnus was brought in as the reserve because Jón Paul Sigmarsson couldn't do World's Strongest Man because he was injured, and Magnus won it. He came in and won the whole thing. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
No.
So Rain O'Neill is absolutely one of the first, is in the same category as Magnus. As showing up and winning the whole thing.
Yeah.
And to be fair, these days, to rock up to World's Strongest Man and win it,
that was amazing because obviously it's not until Christmas over here, and Sean's really into it. My partner Sean, she loves it, and she never wants to know who's won. But then we went to Giants Live in July, so obviously he was there. The winner goes, and so she had to find out. So she said, who won, and I was like, somebody called Rain O'Neill, and she was like, who? I was like, who's this guy? That was amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely spectacular. What an athlete. What an athlete.
There's a spoiler there for everyone, by the way. We'll say it after we've just said.
yeah. But no, I managed to meet Reno after that, and he's about the same sort of size as Mitch Hooper, he's obviously, I think he's younger. I think he's younger than Mitch, but he's lovely guy, but like you say, first time ever there. rocked up and won the whole thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's incredible. Yeah. So you at 12 then, holding these 12 bricks, and
Yes.
you kind of hold them like a sandwich. You have to push them together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously we've just spent the weekend with your really, really lovely, like I said at the weekend, lovely, polite, courteous son, Erik, who's 18.
Thank you.
And he's a big boy for 18. Were
Yes.
you a big 12-year-old? Were you big at that stage?
Well, yes. I was always big, just out of the cereal box. But it was but the thing is, like, when I was born though, I was smaller than my sister. So that's a funny one. But I was always, if you would have seen my grandfather, you would know why we are big and big boned and quite, just dense characters. And it's size was never an issue. Let's just put it that way.
So, and how tall are you, John? Are you about like 6'4", 6'5", something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
6'4".
Yeah.
I would say in my prime I was about 6'5".
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you met Jean-Paul Sigmarsson at 12.
Yeah.
You come from this culture of strength and strong men and Vikings and all this kind of thing. When
Yes.
did you first get involved in some kind of physical training or physical activity? Did you get involved in sport, or did you go straight into strength training, or what happened?
Basketball was my number one passion to begin with.
Okay.
So a little bit similar to Hafthor. I think basketball is probably one of the greatest foundations you can have in strongman, because you see so many movements doing basketball, and when you strengthen those movements, you become a very, very explosive and decent strongman straight off the bat, because you can move, and and then you just need guidance, which I had from Magnus, showing me what the tricks and trips are for the events, and being able to plan ahead, and making sure that you're going to set up the stones right, for example, create handles on the sandbag because you want to be quicker. So it's a game of seconds and it's a game of milliseconds, so everything counts. And yeah, it was a great thing, just becoming, getting into the strongman, like after basketball. In basketball, I decided to start lifting a little bit with it, but there was nothing recognized as actually going to the gym alongside basketball, which was a shame. It would have paid off immensely. But then just suddenly interest came into the gym, and I thought to myself, I wanted to get a six pack and look good for the ladies, and then just I saw this guy in the corner of the gym lifting heavy ass weight, and I thought to myself, I want to do that. So I actually went to that guy and asked him if he could teach me, and he nodded yes, and I rocked up at the same time as he did, and when I started getting stronger than him, I sort of decided to go into new battlegrounds, and that was Gym 80, and that's where I sort of started meeting all the guys. And one time I was in the corner deadlifting, and one of the strongman promoters, Hjalti Árnason. Do you know Hjalti? Do you know of Hjalti?
No.
Okay, he's one of the strongman promoters in Iceland. He competed many times with Magnus Ver Magnusson. He did go to World's Strongest Man as a competitor once or twice. I'm not entirely sure. But he did quite a few strongman competitions back in the day. And he just came to me and said, "You should do strongman." And I was like, "What?" And that was a big surprise. And I rocked up day after to a strongman competition, literally. And did all right. Did not finish last, which was pretty cool. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And that's sort of after that competition. So me and Magnus, we started training together, and we trained together for quite a while. And he taught me, everything that I needed to know. But he will tell you himself, "Oh, I didn't teach you everything," because he was competing himself.
He kept a few secrets.
Yeah,
for
he kept a
himself.
few secrets for himself. But that's one of those things. But hey ho. But I learned enough, and I got myself to World's Strongest Man by qualifying.
Mm. So
That's
how old were
that Magnus thing is up there with, somebody said that to someone at work when I worked in an office, and someone said that once, and he went, you taught me everything you know, and they went, no, I taught you everything you know.
Yeah.
That's why Magnus sounds.
Yeah, it literally is.
And
It
so
literally is.
how old would you have been then, John, when you did that first competition?
2000. Well, that's 25 years ago. So 25.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah,
And
man.
then from then on, you just kind of fell in love with the sport and the training, and you just kept competing and gradually rose up the ranks. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was fun. I mean, if I would have changed anything, because of what I didn't realize that Magnus is probably part machine, is that I would have rested more back in the day. Yeah, but I went from training basketball and all that stuff, and came in then into lifting, and that was it was great fun. But I didn't realize, it's just back in the day there was no such, so not as much about recovery. So when I would recover on the weekends, I would go and do some strongman, just some light strongman, a little bit of rest between weightlifting sessions. So it was, but it was amazing. It was a great time. I wouldn't change a thing though. It was just like everything about, how do you say, training in Iceland, and just having to go down to Laugardalur, which is a place where they kept all the strongman equipment. You had to get the water out of the tire. You had to brush the snow off the stones. And, that's how enthusiastic this was. I mean, we were literally there in the snow, mud, didn't matter. We were there carrying stuff. And later on in life, later on in the strongman career, they sort of started making sort of a little bit of a strongman hold. So it was called Hovið, and that was sort of where they kept all the strongman equipment. And because there were no gyms taking in, strongman equipment really. It was sort of like, big and burly stuff. So, but now it's a lot more open. You see strongman gyms everywhere, and so good to see how the strongman sport is growing, and people have opportunities to train in so many gyms now and actually do strongman.
What I love about it, the one thing that you said a while ago now in all of that is, and it makes me think of, and I can't remember her name, the strong woman who I had on, who, not Donna and all that, the one who runs the gym in London. I can't remember her name. But you just said you were in a gym and you had a chat with someone who looked like they knew what they were doing. And like, can you help me? And they said yes. And I love that because people get intimidated in gyms by people who look like they know what they're doing. But from talking to people like you and the lady whose name I can't remember, and I apologize for that, but she was on the podcast a while ago. She said the same, and she now runs a strongman gym. She's a woman, but a strongman woman gym. And
Sally Moss, it is.
Sally Moss, that was it.
Yeah.
She runs a gym, but she didn't know how strong she was. So people can think they're not very strong and they're like, oh, I can't do that, rather than going up and asking and saying, can you show me how to do that? And they might find out they're naturally really good. Yes. But they just didn't know how to, or where to start, or how to do it, or what the technique was, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty much everybody. Everybody is stronger than they think.
Yeah.
And I love that. So that's like just a message to people: if you're intimidated or whatever by gyms, is just go and ask someone
Absolutely.
who, someone who looks like they know what they're doing and looks approachable and everything. They might not look approachable, but they usually are.
Yeah.
And people want to pass on their information. I think it's great. It's a great thing to be part of.
And this is one of the reasons why I'm a personal trainer, and people realize actually, hey, I didn't have a clue that was possible. When you go through the motions and teach people how to squat, how to deadlift, how to overhead press, and all that stuff, it's amazing. It's just like people really apologies. So people really don't know what they're capable of until they try it. So that's everything. I know when people realize that, with certain activations, they can actually incorporate more muscle mass into their movements. Doesn't matter if they're doing a curl, if they're doing a squat, if they're doing a deadlift. If you do set up correctly, and this is what I love teaching people, they go, oh. Like I have a guy who does bench press, and he's like, I feel my legs more than I feel my chest.
It's funny though, because that's I mean it's a quote. I can't remember. I've heard Jordan Peterson say it, but it's probably from before. But people aren't just as strong as they think, or they can't achieve things like you know they can achieve more than they think.
Yes,
they can achieve more than they can actually imagine that they could achieve. So like once you've, you know, like a bench press, say someone thinks, oh, I couldn't really do that. They don't even think they can, or they think they might be able to. Then once they learn how to do it, they're then at a different level. So actually they're like, I think I can now do this.
yes.
But at that first level, they didn't even imagine that was possible. So I love how that steps up as well. And especially for someone like you who's competed in strongman, you see people doing these amazing, like Thor's just lifted 510, which 10 years ago, before Eddie Hall did it, it was like 460 was the highest, wasn't it? Was the most, or 470 or something?
Yeah, that was Benny Magnusson, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I say, I'm still all for that. Benny Magnusson's raw lift of 460 was probably one of the most impressive feats of strength in the history of this sport, because he held it with his own hands, and there were no straps. And I always say to people, hey, if you can't hold it, you can't lift it. Period, point blank. So it's one of those things that, you know, just that's why it's so impressive, and that's why it sort of sticks with me how impressive that was.
Yeah.
I always say to people, he's a good friend of mine. So yeah. I will raise his flag every time.
So in terms of your, before we'll move, we'll kind of chronologically move through things. But when you did your 2 World's Strongest Mans in 2002, 2003, where were they held those 2 years?
So first year it was in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And then Zambia.
Okay.
Yeah, both incredibly hot places, and you know, but Malaysia was more humid than Zambia. But my dear Lord, it was hot.
Yeah.
And for an Icelander coming there and just like, not really used to being in heat over, I would say 20, 25 degrees. And that's me being very generous. And you know, and that's it was 40 degrees in Malaysia almost the whole time, and the humidity was crazy. And then it was Zambia, where the heat went all the way up to 50 degrees when we were pulling the train, and that was over Victoria Falls as well. So the water was coming, and it was sort of evaporating in the air, and that must have been some. I don't know. I just remember finishing that train pull, and I thought to myself, "Is this the time I'm going to die?"
I think that
literally
when it was like 32 degrees during the summer here.
Yeah.
So that's when I have to take the dog out early, because it's going to be warm later on. So it's too hot for him. So take him out in the morning, then I have to train in the afternoon, which I don't usually do. And I think the same. And that's just lifting a couple of bells in the house. That's not pulling a train.
Exactly.
But they were back in the days. We spoke about it a few times on the podcast. When we had, I think, Terry Hollands on and things like that, whereby I used to love when it used to be in different countries each year, and you used to see that, and it used to be outdoors in different locations, and used to kind of showcase the country it was in. I think that was great fun back then. It's always America now, isn't it? But yeah, fantastic.
It was amazing. Like you know, going to miss. I remember when we went to the World's Strongest Man in Zambia to meet the chief of the village, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, a real African chief, I thought to myself. And the guy shows up in jeans and a white T-shirt. I was like,
Are you sure?
I was mildly disappointed, but because it was literally, we were in a straw house, right? So it was like a proper village.
Yeah.
And but there we go. But it was great. It was amazing fun, and you sort of interacted with the people there, and there's a whole video of me and another guy. Geez, now I've forgotten his name. Oh, Steve Kirrid, I think it was, from America. He was in the same heat as I am, and we went to visit that village, and it was really cool. Just meeting with all the well, inhabitants.
Yeah, excellent. So what happened then in terms of you kind of finishing in with kind of competing at that kind of level and things? Did you get an injury? Did you just decide that you'd had enough? Because it's obviously very, very hard on the body.
Yes.
Doing that. I mean, what was it that caused you to kind of stop competing at that level?
Now this is where my resting comes into play, and I wish I had it done more, more scientifically, if you may. Is that I just went to the point of overtraining, and I trained, and I didn't understand why my lifts were going down. So what do you do when things aren't going well? Well, in my head, push harder. Don't be a wimp. Just keep going. And I pushed and pushed and pushed, and I wish I had just calmed down and rested and taken my time and done some light work and just some accessories. But there was only one way in my head, and that was push harder. But so that's where sort of, and then just other guys just came along. I didn't get better. I didn't get, I didn't progress as I should have. Some of my lifts became worse, and that's just, then people pass you, and then you don't sort of see the rest of the career. That's the only thing sort of I regret, that it should have been done the other way around. So I think that's probably a reason why, I had the hip resurfacing, and so that's about a year ago now, and healing all right, doing better, doing my stretches now every day, and trying to become even better, because I still want to lift some stones when I go on strength trips and that kind of stuff. So and I tore a bicep in 2006, 5 or 6. So I tore the bicep on my left arm in a tire flip, but I think it was because we were in the Westford Viking, and there was a deadlift competition, and my strap tore at 360 kilos, and I had 360 kilos on one hand, and that was my left hand. And then in the tire flip day after, I tore. So but that's sort of the strongman. So after tearing the bicep, I thought to myself, it's getting pretty pushy. My son was born in 2006. So it was sort of just other focuses, but we kept going, and I kept training, and still enjoy training, and even more now with training my son, and because we just train together, and that's amazing. It's a good feeling.
And it must also be good for you, because now that, obviously, like you said, you're training other people. That's what you do sort of day in, day out. So to have all the experience that you have of overtraining, of injuring yourself, of then maybe rehabbing yourself, and that perspective that's only really brought through experience, you can now bring and help your clients and help the people that you train.
And like I say, just people who want to get into strongman and that kind of stuff, I got a few that I'm training. So it's just good to see. It's good to have the reins to say, right, now you're going to calm down your training a little bit. You're going to just do light, just technique work, and it pays off. People don't know, when I ever see people grinding through a deadlift, which I did so many times myself, it's too slow. You gotta stop. You gotta go longer between heavy deadlifts. And when I see people grinding over and over and over again, it's just so hard on the nervous system in your body. So it just makes more sense to me to rest. I always say to people, one of my friends, he didn't deadlift for a whole year, came back to a strongman competition, improved 30 kilos and pulled 400.
Okay.
He did that for a year. He did deadlift like movements. But it wasn't deadlifts. There was no grind. So all the body was used to was just some fresh pulls. And that, because the deadlift, if you got it nailed down, then you hold on to it for a very long time. So being sensible on the deadlifts is very, very, very important in any strongman training.
Yeah,
it's really interesting to hear that because, well, Paul McElroy, he's been on the podcast loads. He trains me and James. He programs for us, and he talks about comfort zone expansion, but without going out of your comfort zone, you expand it from within. You train within comfort. I think we spoke about this, didn't we? But you expand the comfort zone to encompass the goal. And I was talking to Erik, your son Erik, about this because he's 18 or 19. His comfort zone has got way, way, way to go because he can expand it massively because he's genetically and he's at the age and all that sort of stuff. He's primed to just get stronger and stronger for the next 20 years.
Absolutely.
I mean, if longer than that, but certainly over the next 20 years.
Yeah.
So what was I going to say? It's interesting that though, because I think people think, well, that's okay for people who want to get a bit stronger and stuff like that. But when you're competing in strongman and all of that, you're going to an extreme.
Yes.
And it's like, well, yes. And I don't know this for sure, but it makes more sense to me now. And you've just said it, and you've competed in strongman, is that approach works for strongman as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got to lift heavy weights and you've got to be prepared. But if you're at a point where you're tired going into the competition because you've been lifting so heavy, you might win, you might not. Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting to hear that from you, actually, because you're the first person out of that world who said the train like that. However, Matt Diamond also said, this was 2 years ago at the event, at the Stable Strongman event, but he said something about he was training, but then Big Loz started training him. Yeah. And I said, how has your training changed? He said, yeah, he's got me doing less. And that was revolutionary for him. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting, actually.
Yes. Sometimes less is more.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when we spoke to, we had Pavlo Cordiaca on here before as well. And Pavlo, when we spoke to him, he said he didn't know what his 1 rep max deadlift was because he never tests it, because he's in comps very usually it's a deadlift for reps. Quite rarely you're doing a full 1 rep max and you're pushing yourself. So there's no need, like you mentioned, the central nervous system. There's no need to be stressing the central nervous system unnecessarily. Yes. This is really, really, really interesting. So you're, in terms of whereabouts in London are you based, John?
I'm in West London.
Yeah.
Brentford way.
Brentford. And where do you do your training with clients? Is it like a local gym or a leisure centre, or what's the setup?
I work at Virgin Riverside. Chiswick Riverside is a very sort of upscale club. It's a very nice place to be, and the prices are accustomed to that as well. So it's quite full on. But then I also occasionally do some external, and I do that at the gym clinic, which is on Power Road, and that's sort of external work. And they got some they have quite a few squat racks, and they got some strongman equipment. So it's good to sort of just get normal people moving, like with a super yoke and like sled pushes, sled drags, all that stuff. Is just getting people to move with weight. People don't realize how important that is. Something like carries. I mean, using a sledgehammer on a tire. People, just wow, how amazingly that affects me. And it just allows people to be able to push more when it comes to squats or deadlifts, and because they have some endurance.
And what are the? Because I know Virgin sort of gyms and Virgin Health clubs, like you say, they're quite. I mean, how do people respond to you in there with the size that you are? But also, I would imagine the kind of training that you're doing there is a lot of kind of. I mean, what kind of clients do you have? Do you have everyone who's just kind of like lifestyle clients who are maybe in their 50s and their 60s?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we did Akureyri in March, and I had 3 of my clients from Riverside, and we were going to Akureyri to lift the horse stone. Now the horse stone is 150 kilo stone, no, 250 kilo stone, sorry, and it's got a handle on top, and you just need to budget. You just need to break ground with it. And I trained them, and we did some rack pulls, and we did some variations of the rack pulls, and we did some grip work. And but yeah, 2 of my clients, they actually moved the horse stone, so it came off the floor. Not completely, but it floated on the floor, which is basically, it qualifies as a lift because you're only supposed to break ground with it, right? And it's extraordinary, and that's where we are back to. They had no idea that they would be able to do that. So that is, just these little things, just making people see that they are stronger than they think.
So in terms of these strength trips that you do then, and we'll give out the links on Instagram and stuff at the end so people can go and have a look, because I was looking earlier today. When did you start doing these kind of guided tours in Iceland and taking people to all these historic stones and taking them around the gyms and training in Iceland? I mean, how long have you been doing that for?
No, I mean, it's been quite a while now, but like I say, it didn't really sort of take off until I would say, this year has probably been the most beneficial because COVID happened, so there was a great pause and that kind of stuff. So, but it was just like in the beginning, it was just like I was in the gym and people were asking me how was it training in Iceland, how was the strength training and and then it just came to an idea. Why don't I just show people? Show people how to, and show people or create an experience around it. And what an experience it is. People come to Iceland and they start testing themselves and they push themselves, and it's such an amazing sort of experience for people to realize, actually I can do some historic strength, and coming to Jakobol and trying the Jón Paul Sigmarsson bar, which Magnus made for him. That's astounding. And, just seeing all this legendary stuff, especially Jakobol, because he has the Gym 80 equipment where I used to train with Magnus back in the day. So it's very nice. It's a bit like coming home, going to Jakobol.
Yeah.
And then of course there's Thor's Power Gym, and just the presence of being there. And we've been lucky quite a few times, and Thor has been there, and Magnus has come to Jakobol, and it just makes the experience so real for people, right? And just my message to everyone: you're stronger than you think you are. You just need some guidance to do it.
Yeah. Oh wow, it's great. And yeah, because Jakobol is, I went in there a couple of times myself when I was there, and did some of the stones they've got at the end. They've got those kind of almost like rubberized stones as well, haven't they?
Yes.
Some of them, and yeah, it's just a fantastic place, And I like that place that's near it called. Is it called like Caveman, the clothes shop? The clothes
Oh
shop.
yeah.
Yeah, Caveman,
Yes.
which because they kind of sponsored the Magnus Classic, and I got like a t-shirt and a shirt from there. I quite yeah, that was quite a nice shop as well nearby. So
I haven't been, so
ah
I'll put that on the checklist.
If you want to
yeah.
know what real strength is, it's the strength of James's t-shirt drawer at home, because he's got so many of them. So many of them. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, do me. But they do a nice shirt, like an Icelandic shirt with the colours. But they didn't
Nice.
have it. They didn't have it in stock when I went, so I got a different one. But if I go back to, I'll definitely go back to Iceland at some stage, maybe with you on one of your stone tours.
Oh man.
And we'll go in and do that. That's great. So in terms of your kind of personal training now, and
Yep.
when did you start your kind of career in that? Did you start that when you came over to England, or were you doing that in Iceland as well, or?
I learned the PT course in Iceland.
Mm.
So I started a little bit in Iceland, and then sort of I used to work with troubled teenagers, and I was sort of it was a facility. If you were misbehaving, they were put, like I would say, sort of in a timeout. Is the sort of the fancy word for it, and then you would also have a therapy center there, and where the kids would stay, and you would sort of assist them and all that kind of stuff. And I used to take, the kids out for lifting sessions and that kind of stuff, and that was amazing. Like there are kids today who I still stay in contact with, and they're like, thanking me for getting them into lifting and that kind of stuff. And some of them have really, really improved, and just really doing well. And it's such an amazing, amazing thing to be able to help out. And yeah, Iceland was good to me, but there's wars. When I moved here now, I would say there's a little bit more opportunities to do stuff. I don't think I would have done strength trips from Iceland.
Yeah.
For example.
And how do you feel going? How was it? Because I think you moved over. You said, I think when Erik was he about 6 or something? So you've been over here about 12 years living. Is that correct?
11 years, yes.
11 years, yeah.
Yes.
So how was it moving from, because you've not just moved from Iceland to England, you've moved from Iceland to London, which is like the most densely populated
There's
city.
probably more people in your street than there is in Iceland.
Yeah, like it's the most densely. I think the population of Iceland is about 350,000 or something.
Yeah, 370,000.
370,000, and the population of London is about, like, I don't know, it's over 10 million, isn't it? I think, yes. Including, yeah. So it's huge. So how was that? I mean, I know you'd obviously visited England and moved and gone through England before, but actually living in Iceland as in England from Iceland as a culture shock in London. How was that for you?
I didn't give it much thought, if I tell you the God's honest truth. Just came back, came here and just, Iceland, an Icelander in abroad, right? And, because I traveled fairly much when I was younger, my family would take me along, and I went quite often because of my father's family. So I came quite often to the UK, not especially for London, because my family is more Norwich way. But like I say, it was, I didn't think much of it because my mom and my sister are already living here. And but it is a culture shock for sure. You just started to realize that, most people just have their head down and, try not to smile and say good morning. People might think you're crazy. And that kind of stuff, I always like that meme where the Northerner was scaring Londoners downtown by greeting them and smiling and saying good morning and how are you? The terrified Londoners scuttled away.
Because you as well, you've always got a big smile on your face, haven't you? And because you're so big, they must, it's quite funny, quite funny.
Yeah.
And because you mentioned, I think, because your name is I'm going to say it again, Jón Valgeir Williams. Yeah. Yes. So your father was English anyway, yes. Yep. and your mother was Icelandic. Yeah. So, like you say, it wasn't a terrible kind of culture shock to move over to England. So
no.
But no, Norwich is kind of the other side to me. I'm in Essex, so you got London, Essex, Suffolk, then sort of Norfolk, Norwich over that way. So
yes,
yeah. And you've been over to Norwich, I take it, a few times and stuff?
Well, yeah, quite a few times.
Yeah.
Spent, we used to go in the summer, for example, for a month and stay with the family. And, I was so living here hasn't been that much of a, like a culture shock. I would understand it would have been quite on the contrary if you had no experience of, let's say traveling or, living somewhere else. And so, yeah. Definitely.
Excellent. So what kind of people then, if we talk about like the trips a little bit now, what kind of people do you take? You take people who are, like you mentioned, some people who've never done any stone lifting or lifting before. No. And I presume some people who've been really training maybe hard to go over and do things like maybe the Husafell stone and things like that. I mean, is it a total spectrum of people that you take? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for example, next not this weekend, but the next weekend, I have a father and son, and they're coming for the 6th time.
Wow.
Yeah. So the son is now 16. So it's fantastic because he's he trains and gets stronger every time, and so it's such a phenomenal thing to watch. It's like being the part of the whole ritual of him growing up and getting growing up as a strong individual, and having strength trips as a part of that is quite amazing.
Excellent. And how many people do you tend to have on a trip? Is it usually quite a small number so that
small? I prefer small numbers, so like maximum 4 to 5. But it's one of those things that I want to be able to help out everyone, make sure everybody has a fair chance and that kind of stuff, and everybody has fun. Because if you're standing around for too long, it doesn't get very interesting. Well, the sort of, how do you say, the cream floats off quite quickly. No?
Yeah.
You can put it that way.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's been great talking to you, John. It really has, and really, like I say, the strength trips I think are fantastic. And we'll give the Instagram in a minute for that, because I've got that on here. What is next for you, John? I mean, are you still training yourself, and do you have any kind of goals that you're still working towards, like in terms of, I know obviously you're not going to, maybe you've been as high as you're going to be in terms of attending, the world's strongest man and things like that, but what does training look like for you now, and what are you training for
now? Like, I train for anything that my son is doing, so basically I work around him, and it keeps me going, keeps my enthusiasm up. And when he has events, I do the events with him. But at the moment, my main goal is just to sort of get my hip in order to be walking better, because I think I just got a little PTSD of, because for so long I had my hip very bad, and I was still training, I was still trying to do stuff, and but the hip was just, in chronic pain because of the arthritis that was in there, and it desperately needed that resurfacing, because I feel a million times better, but it's not like 300%, because the tightness and and all of that, and I've kept holding on, in my body like is still protecting its hip, so I'm still limping around a little bit, but I just need to concentrate on that and get better at walking better and stretching and doing all my movements correctly, really. So that's sort of what my training is mostly about at the moment. And when that comes along and I feel I can walk better, lift stones better, then we start to see sort of if I want to go for a competition with my son again or whatever, because it was, kind of like, the marker of being able to compete with my son in one competition. That was good fun.
That was in Ipswich, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that was great, because I was there as well, and
is that when you two were in the same category competing against each other?
Yes.
We were,
yeah. Who won?
we were.
I don't know, but it like I say, for example, I decided to overtrain myself a little bit before that competition, so my back wasn't really feeling very great. But we were in the same category. It was good fun. I mean, I think I enjoyed that competition quite a lot, because it was my first in quite a few years. So
it was good having like the throwing bags as well, and the stone, and and the yoke and the sandbags, and it was a good competition. Yeah, it was very, very good. Yeah, no, that was great. Yeah. And if people do want to follow you, I'm just going to give them are you most active? Is Instagram the place that you kind of do most things, or do you? Yeah.
Yes.
So it's at John, Jon. So Jón V Williams. Yeah.
Yes.
And then the Strength Trips one is at Valgeir. So it's VALGEIRS _ Trips. Yeah.
Yes.
And then, but if you go to Jón V Williams, there's a link to the Strength Trips ones on there as well, which is great. And you also sell like the belts and straps and things like that as well for lifting, don't you?
Yes, that's sorry, that's on my webpage.
Yeah.
And that's valgeirstrengthtrips.com.
Yeah. So I think Emma, one of the ladies who was with us at the weekend, she bought one of your belts. So
Yes.
we'll probably see her. And I know that Alex won one of your belts as well at Ipswich Strongest,
Yes.
because she won her category there. So she won one of the belts. So yeah, they'll be using the belts, I'm sure, this week when we're training, which is great. Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much, John, for joining us. Are you done for the day, or have you got more clients to train later on?
No, I'm done for the day.
Yeah.
I tried to think about, because I want to focus on my strength trips in the afternoon, but I start like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I want to get my clients out of the way. Last client before 2 o'clock, so I can finish around 2, and then I can have time to organize my trips and the rest of the stuff.
Brilliant. And how many, just out of interest, how many trips do you normally do a year? Just a couple, or?
No, here's the thing. For this year, there has been around 9.
Yeah. Wow.
But I did a couple of private trips. No, 3 private trips actually. Was one to Scotland, and one to Jeju Island, and then one to where we went to Sweden.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All lifting stones.
Yeah. Wow. I'll have
Yeah.
to see if there's many. I'll have to see if there's many people from the gym who might be interested in doing a weekend in Iceland, because I think you go on the Friday, you come back on the Sunday, don't you, or something like that. Usually, you do like a weekend sort of
Yeah.
trip. Or if there's anyone listening to the podcast now, Health Oddity, who might want to do a trip,
Yeah.
let us know. Contact us, because we might actually be able to put something together where we, have some people from the podcast. Because I think
Absolutely.
Pete and I would do one day. Because even if you're walking around, Pete, over there would be amazing, the scenery and everything.
Yes.
I can lift stuff.
I know you can lift stuff as well, but I'm just saying, you can, and we can go swimming in the beach as well. Yeah,
You can go swimming. Yes, that's
Yeah. But I'll tell you one thing: you don't want to go swimming in Tritvík, though. That's when you realize why you had to be strong to be a sailor in Tritvík. When you go down to that beach is like, come on, get in. Literally, it's the sea, just like the waves, and just the racket. There's a racket on the beach, just leftovers of a boat that's been hammered by the sea, and it's all over the beach. And then you see the waves and how they behave, and you think to yourself, okay, so
if you went in there, you'd be swept out to sea fairly quickly. Yeah,
fairly quickly.
Yeah.
To say the least. It's unbelievable, but it's such an experience, right?
Because I remember watching I watched the Vikings TV series, the whole thing, and you see when they're landing on the beaches in the tiny boats that they had, and like you say, a lot of them are getting just churned up and spat out because of the waves, and incredible. Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. Like, I mean, to go out to sea back in those days where there was nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
And they didn't even have, like proper clothing for it. Like, it was sheep skin or something ridiculous to keep you warm. Whether it kept you warm, that's another matter. It's just absolutely unreal. Like, hats off to these guys.
Yeah. Wow. Dear me. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, John, for joining us. That was brilliant. And so the first port of call is to go on Instagram to @Jón JON Williams, and then you can go to the strength trips and everything from there and have a look. We will hopefully see you again, John, at some stage. I may see you even at my gym at some stage. We might arrange something, or you might be able to come down for the deadlift day, which would be great.
Yeah.
And we'll be in touch. But yes, it's always a pleasure spending the weekend with you at the Disabled Strongman, and then having you on today has been fantastic. So thank you so much.
Well, the pleasure was all mine. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, brilliant. And thank you everybody for listening and for watching. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to do so, especially Apple Podcasts. We will be back next week with Dan John, I think, for his 12th visit to the podcast, talking about his new book, The Art of Coaching, among other things. So we will see you next week for episode 267. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter.
You're welcome.
And we'll see you next week. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.